Chapter 14. How are women treated? Guys who are planning on driving solo can bypass this chapter if they want, but you'll miss a heck of a funny story starring the evil overlord and a pervert. No, not me. If you're a man that'll be team driving with your spouse, you'll probably want to stick around for this. I've dedicated an entire chapter to women because so many of them are intimidated by everything associated with trucking. Women need to realize there really isn't much reason to be intimidated. Although there are approximately 154,000 female truckers on the road today, you're still vastly outnumbered. Prepare yourself. You'll be leered at, hit on, and probably talk nasty to at some point. This usually happens over the CB radio, but not always. So if you're the sensitive type who can't take care of herself, then trucking may not be for you. However, if you've ever put off a drunk guy at a bar, you'll do just fine. Usually a sharp word or two will shut him up. It never failed for the evil overlord, but then again, her evil powers enable her to shoot firebolts out of her eyes. I think I can say from ample experience as that rejected drunk guy in the bar that I'm fairly certain this is a gift most women obtained at birth. Some women, like the evil overlord, hated the attention she inevitably drew. She'd purposely go without makeup and stick her hair in a bun every day, partly because it was easier and quicker than fixing herself up, and partly to try to go unnoticed. She should have given up. Her trying to look ugly is a lesson in futility. Man, I'm getting this butt-kissing thing down, huh? Learn from the master, boys. Other women seem to love the attention. They know nearly every male eye is on them, so they shake it so hard walking across a truck stop parking lot that you expect pieces of their butt cheeks to go flying like shrapnel, damaging anything within the blast radius. They love the attention and flaunt what few assets they have with tight little halter tops and little bitty short shorts. Most of these women are the type that would be ignored in a shopping mall by everyday citizens, but love having a captive audience like a pack of horny truckers. They thrive on the attention. Now, if you think you're not very attractive and will be easily overlooked, think again. A woman is a woman, and that's all that matters to some of these guys. It doesn't matter if you look like a Victoria's Secret model or the backside of a Rottweiler. You will be noticed to some varying degree. A quick story here to illustrate to you what I'm talking about. One evening, the evil overlord and I were bored out of our minds sitting in our truck at a truck stop. It was dark, and for some odd reason, I had the CB radio on. God knows why, because I truly hate the vile thing. Typically, one can hear all sorts of chatter going on by bored drivers at a truck stop, especially in the evening. That night was no different. Out of boredom, the evil overlord began to talk on the radio in a sweet southern voice. "Anybody out there want some company tonight?" The radio erupted. Now keep in mind that it's dark and our curtains are drawn. No one can see her, but they sure heard her. "Where you at, honey? That sure is a sweet voice you got there." "I need some company, darling." The calls kept on coming. She broke in and said, "I should tell you that I'm pushing 400 pounds and I'm missing most of my teeth." A brief silence ensued. Then through the quiet came a low, slow southern drawl. "I ain't got nothing against a woman with no teeth." Enough said. Attention, attention, and more attention. Women get it, no doubt, especially in a male-dominated industry. It's not just at the truck stops, though, nor does the attention only come from other truck drivers. The evil overlord is part vampire, and therefore has always preferred to drive at night, partly because she's naturally nocturnal, partly because she curses the very existence of the sun, and partly because people passing by can look up and see her when it's daytime. Not just truck drivers either. Construction trucks loaded with guys, even full cars of little old ladies that are clearly thinking, "Hey, look, Mabel, there's a woman driving that truck." Vehicles of all kinds would be ready to blow past her when they'd suddenly notice her and hit the brakes. They'd ride alongside, sometimes trapping her behind a slower moving vehicle. She really hated getting trapped like that. Truck drivers would try to get her to talk on a CB. Construction guys would stick their tongues between their index and middle fingers and whoop and holler. Cars full of ladies would laugh, carry on, and give her the thumbs up about 100 times. It drove the evil overlord batty. Did you catch the vampire reference there? Batty. That was actually an accident. I can't take credit for that one. So did the evil overlord get all that attention because she's a hottie? Well, perhaps she got a bit more than her fair share, but that kind of attention is not exclusive to attractive women. We've talked to other female drivers who, how can I say this nicely, had really great personalities that had the same problems. Face it, women are a minority in the trucking world, therefore people point and stare like they're at a carnival freak show. It's sad, but true. I wonder how the bearded lady would fare as a trucker. The evil overlord did the best thing she could do. She tried to ignore them. If they just wouldn't move on, she would first check her mirrors to make sure no one was riding behind her, then she'd stomp on the brakes to force them to go past. It usually worked. If that extreme measure still didn't lose them, which it sometimes didn't, she'd take the next available exit ramp. By the time she got stopped at the stop sign and got back up to speed, the offender was long gone. Feel free to copy her tactics if, or should I say when, you encounter this problem. Just check your mirrors first. You'll really get some unwanted attention if someone rear-ends you because you locked up your brakes in the middle of the freeway for no apparent reason. Here's another trucker story to illustrate this problem. One time I came upon a truck that had a flat tire on the trailer. It was throwing rubber all over the highway. Apparently the driver hadn't noticed, so I called out on the CB. There was no answer, so I pulled up alongside to get their attention. It was a woman. No wonder she didn't have the CB on. Knowing how badly the evil overlord hated it when drivers tried to get her attention, I felt bad for doing what I had to do. She definitely had the ignore game down to an art. I rode right beside her for a few minutes, holding my CB mic up to try to get her attention. No dice. She stared straight ahead, clearly ignoring me. I eventually had to blast my air horn good and long to make her look at me, which she did with a disgusted look on her face. She still didn't want to pick up the mic, so I had to gesture back to her trailer and try to communicate that way. She finally got tired of playing charades with me and picked up the CB. I quickly assured her I wasn't a pervert, well, not right then anyway, and told her I understood why she didn't respond because my wife wouldn't have either. I told her about the tire, and she was grateful. I was right. She hadn't noticed. We had a quick laugh about her having tunnel vision, and as I was wishing her a nice day, another driver broke across the CB with an ever so typical, "Where's that lady driver? She sure has a sweet voice." We rolled our eyes at each other, chuckled, and off we went. I'm sure her CB went dead the second I pulled away. Good for her. What this incident showed was that the evil overlord wasn't the only one with this problem, and this woman wasn't anything to write home about, if you know what I mean. So all this attention isn't just reserved for the bootylicious dames. We've already covered the physical size issue, so we won't go back into that. If you skip that part, here's a summary. It doesn't matter what size you are. Gee, I guess I could have made that chapter a heck of a lot shorter than it was, huh? If you need a refresher course, head on back to chapter 5. Just let me stress one more time that you don't have to be a macho woman to drive a truck. Sure, there are a few tasks that take a bit of brute strength, but they shouldn't keep you from driving if that's what you want to do. What takes brute strength? Well, that was weird. Apparently Ginger from Gilligan's Island is considering becoming a trucker. Well, we've already discussed the loading and unloading factor. It won't happen that often if you choose the right company to drive for. You may have to put your weight into lifting the hood to check the oil or wash your windshield when you fuel, but that's no big deal either. Then there's unhooking your trailer. To unhook a trailer, you'll have to yank on a handle on the fifth wheel, which is what hooks the tractor to the trailer. They usually come unhooked fairly easy, but every now and then they can be a bit stubborn. You can buy a cheap long metal rod at a truck stop, ironically called a fifth wheel puller, that you can use to get some leverage. If you still can't get it unhooked, most men are only too happy to prove how tough they are. Just ask. Along with unhooking a trailer comes dollying the landing gear. These are the trailer legs that you hand crank down before you unhook or crank up after you've connected to a trailer. These also can be stiff at times, but the hand crank has a couple of different gears to make it easier. Again, if they're too stiff for you to crank, just bat your eyes at the nearest wannabe stud muffin. The last strength test that you'll tackle is sliding the tandems. The what? There she is again. Hold your horses. Have you ever seen a long line of trucks pulling into a weigh station on an interstate and wondered what the heck was going on? I certainly did before I got into trucking. Weigh stations are there to keep drivers legal, whether it's logbooks, truck inspections, or truck weighing. Federal guidelines say that you can't have more than 34,000 pounds, more with proper permits, on a set of 2 axles, also known as tandems. Weigh stations are there to make sure your weights are legal. That's why you need to slide tandems. Here again, there's a handle near the trailer tires that when pulled out allows you to slide the trailer to adjust your axle weights. This sounds more complicated than it is. Still, some of these handles would even give Paul Bunyan a hernia. Those tandem handles are notorious for sticking. That's why you'll commonly see one driver helping another get it unstuck and get the weight adjusted. If we men need help with them, you surely won't take any slack for asking for assistance. Well, that about covers it for the rough stuff. If you're alone, just ask for some help. You may catch a few man is superior to woman comments, but that's a small price to pay. You women know better than that anyway. Most men are happy to help, so just ask. Now, if you've got a man as a co-driver, you probably don't need to worry about these things. To help persuade the evil overlord to get into trucking, I made a deal with her that I would do everything on the outside of the truck if she would do everything on the inside. Little did I know what I was getting into. In all actuality, I really didn't mind. I could usually fuel or drop and hook a trailer a lot faster than she could, even if I had to disrupt my sleep to do it. If she had to go onto the docks to deliver, it usually took longer because the dock guys would stand there and talk to her instead of doing their job efficiently. Not to mention, I could back into the dock a jillion times faster than she could. But don't get me wrong, she wasn't lazy. She offered to do it herself plenty of times. If I hadn't had much sleep for some reason, she wasn't going to make me get up just to fuel the truck, even though I could fall back asleep the second my head hit the pillow. This deal we made was unique as far as we knew. Anytime we ever met and told another husband and wife team about our agreement, the woman driver would always give her husband a dirty look, punch him in the arm, and say, "Why don't you do that for me?" I wasn't very popular with those men. I'd make the same agreement today if I had to do it all over again. Maybe you men ought to consider a similar agreement if you're having trouble persuading your little lady to go along with your plan. That is, if you can handle the pressure, big boy. Just don't start whining the first time she wakes you up. I do have one final word for the ladies about personal safety. I doubt I have to tell you this, but better safe than sorry. I'm sure most of you women have a better grasp on watching out for yourselves than anything I could suggest. Heck, you've been doing it all your lives. I will state the obvious that some truck stop parking lots can be pretty dang big. There can also be dark spots. Even in a well-lit parking lot, trucks cast big shadows. Just try to stay in the light if you have to walk alone at night. And you might want to get one of those cool stun gun flashlights. Although since it may be against your company's policy, clearly I didn't tell you to buy one. Nor did I just provide a link to them in the text version. Someone must have broken into your house and altered this book. Be sure to check behind the curtains before you go to bed, and the closet. Oh, and perhaps under the bed. Obviously, if you've got a driving partner, get their lazy butt out of bed to walk with you. If they protest, I find that being offered some sort of future sexual treat usually popped me right out of bed. Granted, you're also women, so you can just as easily renege when the payout time comes due. Not that I would know anything about that. Oh, also, all this is assuming that the person waking you up actually has any sexual interest in you. You might get a weird look if your driving partner is your sibling. Naturally, you should also try to park as close to the building as possible, whether it be a truck stop, a rest area, or a customer. Of course, all us fat, lazy male truckers are also going for those close spots. Because heaven forbid we walk any further than absolutely necessary. Jeez, we're so pathetic. Some women do go to extreme measures to avoid going into a truck stop or rest area late at night. Those extremes usually have to do with improvised potty inventions. Enough said. The vast majority of time, you aren't going to have any issues out here. However, having said that, I now feel obliged to report that I have a friend who told me about a female trucker she knew who was attacked just as she was trying to get into her truck. Of course, it was after dark. According to her, his intentions were clearly more than just burglary. Scary stuff. I am happy to report that another trucker came along and rescued her just in the nick of time. See, we men aren't completely useless. Another situation where you may want to take precautions is when you're parked for the night. Generally, you'll be safe when surrounded by other trucks, but sometimes you might find yourself parked alone in a rest area, on an exit ramp, or parked along a curb in an industrial area. I've included a link in the text version to a little trick that I learned with the seatbelt that my trainer taught me. It consists of wrapping the seatbelt around the door and latching it. It won't stop someone determined to get in, but it will slow them up long enough for you to zap them in the eyeball with that stun gun flashlight that I didn't suggest or link to earlier. I don't use this trick all the time, but it does give me an extra sense of security when I'm someplace creepy like a poorly lit rest area. Or Las Vegas. Another subject involving personal safety is women with trainers. Okay, this is a touchy subject, so I'll tread lightly here. There have been some reports about male trainers intimidating female drivers into earning their trainer's approval, if you know what I mean. There's a link to this article in the text version. Okay, we're all adults here, so I'll be frank. You can be beans. At least I assume your 12-year-old daughter didn't buy this book. The story goes that these trainers make sexual advances at the female student, and if refused, they will basically remind the woman that she needs his approval for her to pass the training program. There are also reports of fondling and physical abuse in some cases. Now, the evil overlord has said, "Men are pigs," enough times that I'm convinced it could be true. Now, not all of us are pigs, but this world certainly has its share of men who need to be beaten with a rubber hose, preferably one filled with concrete. I have no doubt that some men trainers make passes at their lady students. What I find so hard to believe is that dozens of women students made these claims against this company. I mean, a one-off situation I could understand, but it's hard to comprehend that it could happen among so many trainers. Some of the women reported getting out of a truck with one pervert only to get stuck with another pervy trainer. Sadly, despite my doubts, I got confirmation a while back that these things happen more than they should. For more details on this, I've included a link in the text version to an interview I did on jobshadow.com. When you get over there, scroll down to Christine's comments and read our entire conversation. There's some useful information in there for any woman considering a trucking career. It's a simple fact. There are a lot more men trainers out there than there are women. But that doesn't mean that they're all bad. The evil overlord started out with one, and he was a perfect gentleman. And if he wasn't going to make a pass at her, he wasn't going to make a pass at anyone. Now, she didn't finish her training with him, but she wished she did. More on that story in Chapter 19. I'm such a tease. The thing is, as a woman, you can have control over who trains you if you plan for it. If you don't want to risk being put into training with a man, you just need to be sure to hire on with a company that has female trainers. Make it your top priority, and then accept the fact that you might have to wait for a couple of weeks or even a couple of months until one becomes available. Women trainers are in high demand, so they almost always have a student. Just think, maybe one day you could give another woman a great training experience by becoming her trainer yourself. It does pay more. Okay, I feel a tad bit bad now for starting this chapter out by saying that women don't have any reason to feel intimidated by trucking. Yes, all that was a bit scary. Just know that these are isolated cases. Women rarely get attacked. Heck, there are more stories of male truckers being shot, beaten, or mugged than there are of women. I guess that's one good thing that comes from being a minority out here. Just be careful out here and you'll be fine. I would advise against wearing a bikini at a truck stop, though, just to be safe. Okay, ladies, go get your men. We've now gone over the personal side of what it takes to be able to handle a trucking lifestyle. However, that's only a part of it. Now you need to figure out whether you meet the standards that are set by the federal guidelines and or the company you're thinking of driving for.